Hey guys, welcome back to Telltale. I'm Emily.
I'm Greg.
And today we're going to talk unpopular opinions.
I forgot my damn boxing gloves.
Oh no. Good.
I thought we might do
My dental insurance is not that good. But anyway, yeah. So we kind of were thinking about this on and off and had a little bit of a friend discussion and friendly banter about what authors do we think are overrated? And we extended it to authors and poets and things like that. And it actually
got pretty intense.
Yeah. It actually started as a conversation I was having with my husband in the car. And then I decided I am going to pose this question to Greg and Samantha and see who they come up with and see who they dislike.
Well, because we did a video on Shakespeare and you were, pretty much you seem to like Shakespeare.
Yes.
I'm just wondering where all of a sudden that came from, because there seemed to be a lot of rage.
Yes. Mine is William Shakespeare. And here's why. I like him as a playwright. I hate him as a poet.
Okay.
One, just love songs. Or love sonnets. Boring. There's so many other things that you can write about for poetry. But that's all he did. And it was all for commerce.
Okay.
One, because the man's a womanizing asshole. He did not believe in love at all. In fact, he made up so many words in the English language that you have to be he made up so much because what he was literally writing was nonsense to him. That was my theory. So even though he is a bard and he had some pretty words, he uses a lot of words to say a whole heck of a lot of nothing. And I don't know, I just can't get over a man who writes love poetry and doesn't really believe in love at all.
Okay, first thing I got a question is, how do you know that? Because there's even theories that William Shakespeare never even existed, that it was a pseudonym.
Yes.
So how do you know that he was a womanizer?
Because he's bounced around to like 3 different wives. He had 3 different women.
Oh?
Yeah. So like historically, he didn't have, or was it 2? Historically, he was not a faithful man. And
well,
so
neither was H.G. Wells.
Yeah, nobody, and that was common at the time, but it's also kind of like, well, that's hypocritical then. Why would you write about this undying, everlasting love kind of stuff when you didn't even believe in it because you were bouncing around?
To try and con some woman into believing it. And
getting her into bed and then bouncing around. So, it was just for the money. For the most part, because that's what people wanted to hear. That was just the day and age. People wanted the fluffy stuff, even though he never really made a lot of money in the first place. And of course, the reason he probably bounced around is because he was a mooch and trying to get some money from all these women he was womanizing.
So let's clarify. So it's just his love sonnets you have an issue with.
Pretty much all of his poetry. Like which is predominantly love sonnets, yes. Okay. So it was all love poems.
Love sonnets.
Yeah, it's all love poems. And occasionally, because even as a playwright, he was very intentional about making sure people knew when he was making a satire. And he pokes fun at love a lot in his plays. So much so that any love sonnets he wrote feel null and void. Like, when you think of Midsummer Night's Dream, when the Queen of Fairies falls in love with the ass-faced man. What's his name? I can't remember.
Bottom.
Yes. So, he's constantly poking fun at love, or making it tragic, like Romeo and Juliet, where it's like, haha, these 2 stupid lovers. Like, all of it they say, oh, it's this great, great love story. I'm like, no, this is like trash TV of its time. But he's intentional about that, and he was popular because he was funny. He was good at making those dramas. He was good at making that kind of stuff. Othello is another one, where he's just, the guy was so suspicious he ends up killing his own wife, basically.
Yeah, that's kind of something we forget, because universities have elevated Shakespeare as such a high pedestal. He was really the Harold Robbins of his day.
Yeah, like his Romeo and Juliet was 50 Shades of Grey. You know what I mean? It's everybody loved it, but it's really a piece of crap. Yeah. And so you're just kind of like, but I have to give him credit because
was it Clueless? Was actually based on one of Shakespeare's plays.
There's one
Clueless. Of those. Yeah, one of those comedies recently,
like 90s
around
comedies
that time.
Or whatever. Yeah,
that was, it was basically a teen sex comedy, but it was based on a Shakespeare play.
Yeah, yeah, and so I cannot refute that he has made huge contributions. He is extremely talented as a playwright. He did revolutionize the English language with all the words he made up, which were complete gibberish anyway, but I mean, whatever. And like, I cannot refute historically that he was good. And there were all these things, but I find him overrated as a poet.
Siding with you on the overrated part. Okay, his plays are really good, but all the other Elizabethan playwrights, how many of them can you name?
Exactly.
And they were just as good. Thomas Middleton. Today, we're recording this on Thomas Middleton's birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday, Thomas Middleton!
And he actually came a little bit before Shakespeare. And he wrote the play The Witch, which we reviewed, inspired Shakespeare for the witch scene in Macbeth.
Yes.
And who wrote Faust?
Oh.
Can't remember the playwright's name. Again, contemporary with Shakespeare, Elizabethan dramatist. And he was the one who wrote the first drama of Faust, which is a great work.
Fantastic work.
But name one of his, first name him and then name one of his other plays. You can't do it.
I can't remember who that is.
And there are other Elizabethan playwrights from that time that wrote, some respectable plays, but you never hear about them.
Yeah. Also, like, the guy who wrote Death of a Salesman. Overrated.
Arthur Miller?
Yeah. Overrated. Okay. At least Death of a Salesman is overrated. I don't know why, like, sometimes things that are taught in English literature, it's like, this was revolutionary for these reasons, and I'm like, it's still boring. Like, I don't care how famous they were for this work, like, for modern times, this does not translate.
Exactly.
But yeah, and that's another thing, too. I feel like Shakespeare, he uses such flourished language that is very hard for people to get into, but a lot of people praise him for that. I find for modern day, it's lacking. Like, I love Shakespearean plays. Everything. It's fantastic, but I feel like, just as a poet, he's kind of a hack.
But from our modern perspective, if you put on Romeo and Juliet, set in Venice in the 1500s, and you had Romeo stand under a balcony and say, "Yo, bitch, get down here."
Yo, my hoe, what's up?
It's just not going to work.
Hey, you boo. I see you.
That's just not going to work. The language he used, kind of like Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft are constantly pointed out for the styling that they did, and Lovecraft did that purposely to make his work sound older.
How else would we have the word Eldrick?
Exactly.
Yeah. And he made that up.
He did that on purpose, and it has to do with how we perceive his stories. They come. A lot of his stories are not very horrific, except for that he just has this atmosphere over the whole thing.
He sets a tone.
That just creeps you out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of it has to do with his language. And I feel Shakespeare's the same way.
Yes.
That, there have been movies that updated
Shakespeare.
There's even Forbidden Planet that took The Tempest and set it in outer space. And they didn't use Shakespeare's words.
Yeah.
and it came off well, but to set it in Shakespeare's time with Shakespeare's characters and places and situations, I feel you just need Shakespeare's language.
Yes.
It's what makes it
He marketed
so cool.
himself. More unpopular opinions. I have the same opinion of Shakespeare as I do of the Beatles. Well, I'm gonna get murdered. This is how I die. I love the Beatles, but I feel like they are overrated because I think they were just really easy to market. They were foreign, they were nice young guys, they had fun sound, they had really easy to sing along to lyrics. I feel like Shakespeare is the same. He is quotable. We use a lot of his phrases in modern times now, like by the skin of my teeth. I use that phrase surprisingly a lot for someone who lives in 2022. Yeah, in 2022. But we have these phrases and things that we just have indoctrinated into our culture because of Shakespeare. And I feel like because he marketed himself as a romantic, it was easy to market him. And that's why he became popular.
Right.
He uses romantic language, even when he's not intentionally trying to be romantic. Even when it's a comedy, he's using very romantic sounding language, even making shit up. Entire words and phrases, making it up. And it was easy to market. And honestly, I think that's literally the only reason Shakespeare is so popular, is because he was quotable and easy to market.
Well, and he ripped off everybody.
Absolutely everybody. The guy was a complete hack. Sorry. I mean, he did it well. If you're gonna,
a lot of his plays were just rewritings of other people's plays.
But isn't that what every story is? You only have like however many basic storylines that you can build from.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, sometimes it was a little blatant. But yes, I do love Shakespeare. I cannot deny anything he did to perpetuate literature, plays, that kind of thing. He revolutionized the whole performing arts industry just from what he did.
Right.
But as a poet, I just feel like he's really overrated.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
He didn't write a whole lot of poetry.
No, he didn't. Which is good, because I'd have to hate him more.
If that's all he wrote, he probably wouldn't have the reputation he has.
Absolutely. But I feel like it was kind of, again, I see it only as a marketing ploy. Like, it was just something he did to market his work, to get himself in magazines or papers or pamphlets or whatever. So that when you heard William Shakespeare plays were happening, you'd want to go see it. So I just feel like he didn't believe in anything he wrote. And as a poet, I believe in the things I write, or I'm pondering them deeply. And somebody who just writes it for the sake of money just feels like a cheap cad of a person. And it just disappoints me. And I just have a feeling that's exactly what William Shakespeare was. So yeah, that's one of my unpopular opinions. I also hate the Hunger Games, but that's that was the most boring piece of literature I ever read. Didn't even finish the series.
I haven't read it.
Yeah, I didn't like it that much.
Okay.
Another unpopular opinion.
And mine, in our conversation, I forget which one Samantha's was. Do you remember which one she said she didn't care for?
I don't remember. It was a real popular person. Oh, Neil Gaiman.
Oh, yeah.
She thinks Neil Gaiman is overrated. Oh, that hurts my heart.
Yeah. Well, she admits she hasn't read a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what
he does have a flair for the bizarre, and it is very difficult to get into if you're not expecting something a little bizarre.
Okay.
I find, and he can get kind of graphic, and a lot of people have a hard time with that. I don't. I love his work.
Yeah.
But I also tend to really love bizarre stuff. So.
I do too.
Yeah.
I'm a complete newbie to his work. We've started reading the Neil Gaiman Reader, and the book starts off with his very earliest works, and they're extremely short, like 3-4 pages.
But they still say so much, and they're so interesting.
So far they haven't impressed me.
Oh yeah, the first one, one of the first ones that I read was I found it hilarious.
Okay.
But.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
far they haven't really blown me away. But like I say, I haven't gotten very far. They've been extremely short. I would like longer something by him. And the movies I've seen based on his works, I've loved. So I'm sure I'm going to like him at some point.
Yeah.
It's just these stories just seem too
There's
much
a lot to get through too. That
flash
reader is
fiction.
thick.
It is.
That's a thick book.
It is. I think I'm maybe 30 pages into it
I
so
know.
far. So
I'm about the same.
Yeah.
You're good.
there's a long way to go. So
Yeah.
I can't make any judgment of him yet. I have not read any of his important works or even anything a little bit longer by
You could
him
start
yet.
his graphic novels. The Sandman series was fantastic. I feel like
don't have
Samantha
that.
would really like those, but a graphic
She
novel
might.
is such a different medium compared to reading novels and things like that. And sometimes like I'm gearing up to read Jules Verne, and I hate Around the World in 80 Days, but
well,
I'm willing to give Jules Verne another chance.
I've only seen the movies. I've
Yeah.
seen the movie Around the World in 80 Days. I've seen the other movies. Around the World in 80 Days is a very different animal from
Yes.
his more science fictional works.
Yes. So I am emotionally preparing myself to give Jules Verne's another chance. And sometimes you just gotta buckle down and try again and see if it's worth it or not. And if it's not, don't waste your time.
No,
It's not worth it.
no, definitely. If you don't enjoy it, don't keep reading it
Yeah.
just because everybody else does. And that's the point I want to hit home is don't get into these authors, don't follow them just because everybody else is reading it. That's bullcrap.
Yeah.
Follow your own path.
Just
Make
because
your
it's on
own
the
discoveries.
Oprah's book list, Oprah's book club, doesn't mean you have to read it. I mean, I read a lot of Oprah book club, and I've been very impressed. But
Don't follow the hype.
Yeah,
the hype
you don't
is
have to.
marketing people trying to con you.
yeah, find what you like, and then read it.
Give them a chance. Even the popular ones, but also the unpopular ones. Give them a chance. If you don't like it, don't keep reading it.
Yeah.
Don't keep giving them a chance. Don't keep giving them chances. Just move on. Lots and lots of other books to read. And so my unpopular one was honestly Brandon Sanderson.
Oh no!
I've only read one
I
novella
can't say
by
anything.
him.
I haven't read anything by him.
I haven't read his major works. I enjoyed that novella, but I'm watching on YouTube all these people saying how he's the greatest science fiction fantasy writer ever lived. No. Okay. The story I read.
People like to make blanket statements. That's dangerous.
Yeah. First of all, that's hype to sell books.
Yes.
Second of all, if he's your favorite author, fine. But don't put down all the other great authors out there working hard and writing great books because they're not Brandon Sanderson. Give the others as an equal chance.
Yes.
And the story I read was a science fiction novella by Sanderson. And like I say, I enjoyed it. But I've read a lot of Poul Anderson works from 50s, 60s, 70s. And I felt like that's what I was reading, is another Poul Anderson story. He is as good as Poul Anderson.
They do have the same last name.
No.
Oh,
Brandon
Sanderson. They
Poul
rhyme.
Anderson.
Yeah.
Similar, but
They have the similar last name. They're rhyming last names.
I found it every bit as good as Poul Anderson, but not better. I'm sorry. Poul Anderson was a terrific author in his day, and he may be a little dated now, but in his time, he was really, really good at writing science fiction adventures. He never wrote, well, maybe Tau Zero. I haven't read that one yet, but otherwise, he never really wrote anything as great as like Childhood's End or Fahrenheit 451. His stories were just fun adventures. And that's where Sanderson is at. He's writing fun adventures. He's writing good books. People are enjoying him. But the greatest ever? I'm sorry. No.
Yeah, it's too soon to
That's
tell
putting
for
him
one.
up against Isaac
You kind of
Asimov,
have to
Philip Dick, Robert Heinlein.
I feel like you have to
Poul
wait for
Anderson.
someone to die before you can start making those.
Well, maybe not, because I mean, King is definitely
King is
one
top
of
of
the
his
greatest horror writers, and he's still alive. But I mean, there's just so many incredible science fiction fantasy writers. Harlan Ellison.
Yeah.
Sanderson isn't as good a writer as Harlan Ellison. I guarantee that one.
Good.
J.G. Ballard, Michael Moorcock, Fritz Lieber. I mean, before you go saying that Sanderson's the best, read those people.
Controversial thing? L. Ron Hubbard. He wrote a whole freaking religion that people believe in. Like, how could you say that Sanderson's the best author when L. Ron Hubbard is dead and has a religion?
And he was the #1 most popular science fiction writer in the 1940s, above Heinlein and Asimov in the polls taken by Astounding Science Fiction magazine.
Yep. So, I mean, the whole point is art is subjective. Literature is subjective. Humans will pick and choose what they like. So there are going to be tons of unpopular opinions floating around on the internet everywhere. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be tons of sensationalism that people are just going to follow. And I'm not going to say it's blindly follow, because you just like what you like. Do you like trashy literature? Read your trashy literature. Go for it. Like, whatever makes you happy, do it. But I still think Shakespeare's a hack. Poetically a hack.
Right. Yeah. So you got to follow your own path and discover your own way through literature.
Yes.
And like the writers that you like, don't like the writers you don't like. But at the end of the day, H.G. Wells is the greatest science fiction.
Fight us. Fight us.
That's no opinion. That's just plain fact. He wrote
straight up,
all, every trope, every science fiction trope, he wrote it first.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, he did. He did it all. He did it all first.
And everybody else has just been repeating him. So.
Yep, pretty much. You can't deny it, for sure.
No, I'm just kidding. You might read H.G. Wells and think, why is Greg like this guy? He sucks. Mm-hmm. That's your opinion. That's fine. Yeah. But don't call anybody the greatest above everybody else, because you don't know what you're talking about, and it's only your opinion.
Yeah. Not every opinion. That's the biggest thing, is not every opinion is relevant, and people can pick and choose for themselves what they find relevant to themselves. They can literally that's all an opinion is. Mm-hmm. It's statements, and the relevancy is chosen by the individual hearing. Mm-hmm. Whether you like it or not, that's just the way it is.
Right.
So.
And that's what we are here to do. I've kind of adopted a tagline for Telltale Books of discover your new favorite. And not to say that everything we review is going to be your new favorite. The point behind that tagline is that we purposely are trying a wide variety of stuff. Some of which works for us, some of it doesn't.
Goes outside our conventional, what we would pick for ourselves.
We're trying a wide variety of stuff in order to be able to present you reviews from the reader's point of view. Not, we don't have a Shakespeare professor sitting here saying Shakespeare was a hack. We have somebody who's a reader and read it,
but I've read a lot.
But she's a reader and is telling you from the reader's point of view that she's got problems with Shakespeare's poems. I'm telling you from a reader's point of view, Brandon Sanderson's really good, but don't get caught up in the hype of
it's all
people
just marketing.
Who are just trying to sell books.
Yeah, it's all just marketing.
And whoever else is your favorite that somebody is saying they are the greatest ever, just don't buy into that stuff. Discover for yourself.
Yes. The whole point is finding the journey of discovering your new favorite, and that's what we're trying to help facilitate. So that's all I gotta say.
I think that's enough.
Yeah. Alrighty. We'll see you guys next time. Okay. Like, subscribe. Let us know who you think is overrated as an author, poet, whatever. We love to hear those kinds of things. And we might even make it a video topic. Who knows? So, all right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.